today in my backyard at Maple Homestead Farm with Mark, and we're going to get a tour of some of the operation here. He's been talking to me a little bit about all the different things that we have here for filtering and bottling. It's a lot, and so when the next time that you buy your syrup, you want to make sure that you really think about all of the work that it took to bring this syrup to your table. So, Mark, did you say you were going to give me a little sample?
I'm going to give you
okay.
some just picked, bottled, processed.
Yep.
And it's hot.
Oh.
So you want to just take a sip on that first, and then.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
It's incredible.
You know what? It really is unbelievable. I'm a beekeeper, and to have raw honey instead of pasteurized honey, to have syrup right off the press, this is unbelievable. Hey, cheers.
Well, cheers.
So Hank is going to tell us a little bit about the operation here. We also are going to take a visit to Stonewall Farm and talk with Joe there. And I have some other pictures of other operations. There's also going to be some photographs of some of the holding tanks that you guys have. The other day I went around and took pictures of a lot of the holding tanks because they're everywhere and they're all sizes. And
it's almost a catch as catch can.
Right.
Whatever works.
Whatever works. Yeah. Right. I mean, these are all farmers that did this.
That's right.
So yeah,
That's
you
right.
use what you can to make the best of it.
Most of the obviously the high end would be the stainless steel holding tanks, and if they were refrigerated, that would be even better. But you really don't need.
That's money.
Yeah, and at this time of year, usually Mother Nature helps out by keeping it cold.
Right.
A lot of the times when we go to collect sap, there's a skim of ice on top of the sap, which is great. Keeps it refrigerated.
Yep.
So we have to process it.
Right. Now, when you go out, have you ever had a bucket like just spewing over with?
Today.
Yeah.
Today was one of those days.
Yeah.
All of the holding tanks were filled.
Yeah.
And so we were just catching them right at the right time.
Oh, that's great.
And a couple of them we had to empty twice a day. So
Awesome.
it was a great day for sap.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So it's going to take 40 gallons of sap to make a gallon. Oh, we've got another bucket coming in.
Oh, wait. Oh,
you want to bring it in?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll bring that bucket in.
I don't know if you can get around the camera.
Sure
there.
can.
Okay. Oh, this is so good.
Okay. Yeah, 40 to. And I've heard 40 to 43.
Well, because it matters what the water content is, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go behind the camera a little bit and let you talk a little bit more about what you're doing here.
Okay, I'm adding in the diatomaceous earth, which is a filtering agent. It goes right into the maple syrup, but it has nothing to do, it doesn't bond to the maple syrup. It will bond to the filters in the filter unit. And what we'll end up doing is stirring that into the bucket really good, letting it dissolve.
And what is diatomaceous earth?
It's a natural it's a natural substance that's mined, and it's used in many commercial applications. It's also a primary ingredient in chalk, blackboard chalk or industrial chalk. But it's primarily a filter, a great natural filter.
So it grabs some of the substances that might be a little rougher in there, and
it grabs microscopic particles. You know, it does a great job.
Because if you look at the powder, it is very fine.
It is.
Yeah.
And it dissolves. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of the overflow that we had in the last bucket, mix that in here, and then I'm going to stop the pumping process and put this into the filter, and then through the filter and back into the holding tank where it's now being stored at 185 degrees.
And that's about as high as you want to go, right?
Well,
I
mean, I've seen it up to 195, but it's time to bottle at 195.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is actually going in and through all of these coils and then coming back out.
Right.
Yeah.
Each of these is a filter. See all the different.
when you bottle into, sometimes you put it into drums if you just want to keep it in large quantities.
Right.
And then you also have buckets probably, or put it right into the containers.
Usually goes right into the containers.
Yeah.
While it's
Yeah.
hot and
Right.
then it seals itself,
Right.
and then there's no concern about contamination. Very, very careful about keeping things clean after you're dealing with food products.
Right, right.
But fortunately, you're dealing with hot products, so
Yeah, it should be
it pretty much takes
sanitary.
care of itself. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't look like it's a sanitary process, but it is.
Yeah. So, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but how much wood does it take? How many cords did you guys cut for this year?
We had about over 50 cords, between 50 and 55 cords.
Yeah. And on a day when you're boiling all day long, how much will you use?
Oh, could use 6, 7 cords in a
Wow,
day.
that's a lot.
It is.
Yeah. But you were saying they need to stoke the fire every
3
3
minutes.
minutes? Yep.
It's and that's, I don't know, that's a formula that I've heard, but I guess when you've done it for a while, like Nate has, you know exactly when the fire needs to be stoked,
Right.
and when you need to add a little bit of wood, and it goes fast.
Yeah.
The sap's going to be coming off the back pan into the front pan. There's a float over there that regulates the sap level in the front pan here. And that raw sap is going to push the more dense sap through the pan, through the dividers in the pan, and the syrup's going to be drawn off on this side here. Then we'll put it through the filter press. We'll press the syrup into the canner. We'll heat it up to 180 degrees so it sterilizes it and seals in the bottle. And,
So it's easy.
Well, sometimes it's easier than others.
So how did the sap run today?
The sap's running okay. It froze really hard last night, so it took all day to get running. I'm not sure it's going to freeze tonight, so it might run all night, hopefully. So the cold weather was good for it, though. Sap was starting to get a little cloudy. We're starting to make darker syrup. So the cold weather will help bring it back to a lighter syrup, hopefully. The sap was pretty clear today coming out of the line, so hopefully it'll be good.
So what's going to be your next step? You're watching the fire to make sure you don't burn the pan, because I've heard that burning the pan is not good.
Burn the pan is definitely not good. It's very expensive to replace a new pan. We're just keeping the fire stoked constantly. We try to stoke it every 3 minutes. We got a little egg timer over here. Keeping a consistent fire under there is really important, because when the fire dies out, or you stoke a lot of wood at one time, that kind of tends to kill the fire. And when your boiling process slows down or stops in there, that's when you get a reverse flow of the sap or the syrup, and it mixes. And then that way it can cause you to make syrup on the whole pan instead of just this side where you want it.
Okay, so let me take a look at the pan, and why don't you tell me a little bit about what I'm going to see here.
So we're just getting started up, so we don't have much of a boil there, but our sap's coming from a tank outside in the woodshed. It's elevated high above the evaporator, so that it's going to gravity feed down into this back pan, which is basically the workhorse of the evaporator. We have a float on this side of the evaporator that regulates the sap level, and as the sap level in the pan goes down, the float goes down and allows more sap into the valve.
So it's got a continuous feed then?
So it's got a continuous feed. It's all fairly automatic. In the steam hood that you can see right there, I think you can see it through the steam, there's a series of copper pipes going back and forth, and the sap is boiling in the big pan and the steam is going up and heating those copper pipes, which the cold sap from outside is running through. So it preheats the sap before it drops into our main pan, so it's not cold raw sap slowing down the boiling process. So from that back pan, it comes to another float to the front pan. It works its way through all these dividers. The less raw sap pushes the more dense sap to the side where we're going to draw off. And we'll check it with a hydrometer, check its density.
What's a hydrometer look like?
Hydrometer looks like, I thought I had one over here.
You better have one.
Yeah, I do have one. So this is the hydrometer, what it looks like. We're going to draw off a small sample of syrup in a cup like this one here. And when it floats right on that red line there, that's telling us that we have the exact density that we want. It's a more accurate way of testing the syrup than with just temperature alone. If we undercook the syrup, it can spoil or ferment, mold, get on top of the syrup. If we cook it just a little too much, it'll crystallize in the container, and it's pretty sensitive stuff, so we want to cook it just right.
So how much sap does it take to make a gallon of syrup?
How much sap to make a gallon of syrup? Well, it's going to vary day by day depending on the sugar content in the sap. On an average day, it's about 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. It's been a decent year. It's been about 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup so far this year, so that's not too bad. It can be a lot more or a little less.
Yeah, it's fairly warm today for a while.
I wasn't expecting this to be 68 from afternoon.
Yeah.
Well, plus you don't want to get too hot, you know. You're not wearing it enough, you'll burn off real quick. Nothing worse than a sunburn on a cloudy day.
Okay, so it would be good to use applewood, you said?
Applewood is probably the best, highest BTU, you know. But
Who wants to cut down their apple orchards?
that's right. Well, sometimes you find old apple trees, but you're not going to find enough of that to keep going.
Right.
And so the pine works, and it burns hot, and it does the trick, and it evaporates the water, gets the water out of the sap, and
Wow.
end up with maple syrup.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you know, I think I'm going to go out and try to get in there and see the sap actually boiling in
Sure.
the evaporator.
Mhm.
I couldn't believe it because you actually have a window, which makes it really nice because you can imagine what it looks like, but until you really see that sap really bubbling up there, you have no idea.
And you know, let Hank tell you how what's happening over there,
Yeah,
separating the water from the sap.
Right, right. Yep, good.
Good.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So you have a tester here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Standardized and 3 black caps. If you look through here against the light, there's a lens. It's actually a clear bottle, but the lens, so that it's consistent, if it is lighter than this or the same, it would be considered light. Lighter than this or the same would be considered medium, and lighter than this or the same would be considered dark. What we made today was just a shade lighter than the darkest, so it would be considered a dark.
Nice.
And this is all grade A.
Perfect. Everybody loves grade A.
Grade A. Yeah.
Unless you're cooking and you want to use grade B for all your baking products and things like that. So.
And I have no idea what the difference is in price.
Right.
If there is a difference in
It
price.
seems like it used to be like half, almost. But there's nothing wrong with grade
no.
B at all.
It's just
it's just
sweet.
it's just a
Just
stronger.
darker.
Yeah. Yep. Good. Any words of wisdom that you'd like to give anyone about maple sugaring?
Wind from the west, sap runs best.
That's what it is. I was trying to remember what that poem was. Yes.
Wind from east, sap runs least.
And south?
Sap's in drought.
South. Yeah. It's interesting how they made up these
Well,
little
it's a
sayings.
pressure thing.
Yeah.
When it winds from the west, the pressure's changing, and it runs. That's my theory.
Be the one time I set my arm on fire. That's all there is to it.
You can take a picture of that. How do they get the wood in the shop?
Wow. Are we good?
Good.
Okay. So we just received a load of wood.
Yep.
And how much is this? Is that about a quart?
Half board.
Half quart. Wow. Wow. So you started when you were 10 or 11 years old?
Yeah, I'd say 11 maybe.
Yeah. And what are some of your memories of sugaring?
Bucket buckets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a young lad, what do you get to do in comparison to the older guys?
The hard work.
Oh, really? And what is the hard work?
Oh, washing the buckets.
Yeah.
In the fire. Whatever.
So you have buckets as well as the
Lines.
lines too.
Yep.
Yeah. Are you going to be in the sap gathering contest this year?
I'm not.
You're not.
No.
Oh, have you ever been in it?
Nope.
You know what it is?
I do. More of a spectator sport.
It's amazing to see how many people do go to that. So
Yeah.
I'd love to see all the Teamsters and things like that.
Yeah, it's always
Yeah.
a good turnout.
Yep, yep. All right, well, I'm cooking here.
My
so-
butt's on fire.
Yeah. All right, thank you. It's amazing to see all that syrup boiling.
17.8.
And these are in the first 3 pans, and then it'll finish at the end. Boy, that's hot.
Taking about a 6-pack to do 20 gallons today. That's our ratio, in case you want to know.
Casey, the real important document.
Right.
Is there? I don't want to know.
Really?
This thing will do it automatically, but I still have to check it. Yeah, I heard too. Yeah, good work, man. I give you credit for it. That's like you said. Like you say, the way you set it down here, you get a buyer from retail for a green and multiple wide, you only get wholesale with milk. So, you can't divide that way, So today, I'm wrong.
So it's good to go. Okay, so into the bottling room. And you start again.
Yeah.
backyard with Nate, Mark's in the other room, Hank, and Al. Al's actually a beekeeper.
Yes.
Yes.
And part-time fisher.
Yes, and he's wishing. So thank you for joining us today. We've been at Stonewall Farm, we've been at Hank's Maple Homestead Farm. Oh, and here comes Mark. Come on out, Mark. Come on out.
Oh,
This is the end of the show. Really thank you.
Gotta get in here.
Thank you a
Farewell.
lot, you guys. And we'll see you again in my backyard.